part 2 of what we've coined the Man Talk Project. We've done a show before. I was actually on Vinny Eastwood show a couple of weeks back, and so we have Vinny Eastwood joining us tonight, a man who needs no introduction on American Freedom Radio. You can, of course, check out his website, which is thevinnieeastwoodshow.com, where he delivers a great dose of comedy and conspiracy 5 days a week, I believe, and he'll confirm that for us. And, of course, we also have Randy Maugans here with us, and he has his own radio show on offplanetradio.com. And so we're going to be continuing our discussion that we had started on Vinny's show a couple weeks back. And so I'm very excited. We're going to bring up a lot of different interesting topics. I really want to focus on an area that we started talking about on that show, which was just basically what is the role of men in our modern day and age and in our society? What has happened to men these days in this system in which we live and in this time in which we live? And what would be, the difference between when we talk about male, female, and also masculine, feminine, when we're talking more about sort of an energetic or psychological type of thing. And so I want to kind of narrow down this topic and get into as many different aspects as we can. So without further ado, I want to welcome my guests. So Randy, I'm going to go ahead and welcome you first. Welcome to Truth Warrior, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, David. It's great to be here tonight.
Awesome. And I got your website right, correct?
Offplanetradio.com. You got it.
Excellent. And when do you do your show? Is it just once a week or a couple times a week?
Right now it's been pretty limited to doing Wednesday nights, 9 to 11 p.m., and we're streaming that on the websites. There's 2 websites, offplanetradio.net's the other site, which is the theoretical the theoretical network side of it. And, right now, but I do sporadic
Randy, you're just
podcasts.
Breaking up a little bit there. Maybe just repeat the last sentence you had there.
Oh, sorry about that. Last part of it.
Randy, you there?
Hello.
Okay, looks like a little bit of connection.
I can hear Randy. Can you hear me, David?
I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah.
Randy, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah. No problem.
Oh, there we go. Hey, there's Vinny. Let's bring Vinny.
There
on.
you go.
Vinny, welcome to the show, brother. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, bro. It's good to continue the Man Talk project to let people know that men aren't just, stars and pornos, and also really terrible family examples, that kind of thing. Isn't that what men have been reduced to? It's like, oh, you got a big wang, we'll give you a nice job as a porno boy. Other than that, or we're freaking Homer Simpson or Peter Griffin, trying to attract and kill sailors with my siren song.
We most definitely have been reduced to that, absolutely. And basically, hey, Vinny, let's start with you, actually. I wanted to get you guys' definition of terms here, because before we get into the subject, there's a lot of people that, they talk about men and women, the differences, the battle of the sexes, etc. And then when you get into doing some research into ancient traditions, and they're talking about, the divine feminine, divine masculine, and it's a whole other realm of looking at this thing. So maybe, Vinny, just go ahead and give your distinction between, what we would say is male and female, what you would say would be sort of masculine and feminine, and if there's any difference in the way you look at it.
Well, see, we're talking about the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and the...
So, Vinny, are you there with me?
Yeah, I'm here, man. You've got some real bad problem with your audio today, David. And I'm some people talk about the divine feminine, some about the divine masculine, whereas me, sometimes I think it's time to, talk about the divine masculine and how trippy everything is, because that's essentially what society has turned into. It's turned into this really abominable position for any manly man. Okay, manly man. This is how he's portrayed in the media and by the feminazi. He's violent. He's aggressive. He's callous. He doesn't care about anything. All he's good for, and even in fact he's obsolete. Basically, we're just objects for sex and violence, and that's about all we're good for. And in the part of the sex thing, hey, there's innumerable other products out there where that women can purchase for like $3.95 or $3.69.
Yeah,
it means that they no longer.
Sorry, Vinny, you're coming in a little choppy. I'm just trying to see if it's coming in on my end or your end or.
It's so totally your end.
That straightened out so that we can hear exactly what you're saying there. I got a little bit of that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And what about you, Randy? Am I coming through clear for you? Or is it just
I think we're hearing I think chopping up on David's side.
Yeah. AFR, producer.
Drop
out, and David from his own show, and then reconnect it.
We're taking over now.
Yeah.
Okay, take over. I'll be back.
Okay, you're out. Okay. Yeah, I was talking about on my show today about kind of leftist movements and things like that, and where they're actually moving the country, because the right of the left, the left of the lefter, and that's about it. You got full on hardcore tyrannical Agenda 21 socialist Stalinism coming in globally, and you know what is a real threat to that? Actual manly men who go, no, frick you! I want to resist. I can shoot a gun. I will blow your blue helmeted head off. That kind of a mentality, honor, decency, common morality, respect, helping out a brother from another mother. Those are the kind of male aspects that seem to be blown away amidst a wave of tyrannical scumbaggers.
You just nailed it. The whole integrity thing. And that's actually what we talked about the last time as well, was just, we have all these stereotypes that they want to fit us into. Well, you're a jock, you sit around, you watch football, you drink beer, your feet smell, you clip your toenails on the rug. And it's kind of like, maybe there's something deeper in the whole male experience that has been kind of fluffed over by the media who promote the male stereotype that you see on television.
Absolutely. Now, guys, I'm back on the air. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
We can, yes.
Have been able to since day one.
Oh, perfect.
No, but I seem to disagree with the point Randy was making there. I don't think there really is any higher calling to a man than clipping your toenails on the rug. I mean, that's just me, but...
Yeah, well, I mean, and you guys, I heard both of you guys go on that, and I really appreciate that because, I mean, speaking as men, we've all experienced going out with the guys, going out with your friends, many of them who are not awake fully to really what's going on in the world, the real problems that we face, which is pretty sad because I remember sitting around a table with my grandfather, and unfortunately he was in a nursing home, but a lot of people at the nursing home, a lot of the guys in that category, they were sitting around the checker table and talking about what they had survived, which was, of course, World War II and many other different things. And they were talking to me, and it inspired me because they were saying, even as a young child, they were telling me, you can never forget what happened. You've got to always remember what took place so that you can prevent it from happening again. And it seemed like back in the day, men would sit around and they would talk about these issues. They would talk about politics. They would talk about, just what's going on in the world. They would at least converse about these things. But now in our day and age, when we're out with the average, our average friends, mostly what you're talking about is media or, just everyday minutia, stuff that really doesn't matter. Not that there's anything wrong with it per se, but it's the inescapable focus of the topic of conversation amongst men. And I just feel like the perfect word is nothing else but castration. It's sort of, that's what it's come down to. It's more of
I've coined the term psychological castration.
Oh, exactly. It sums it up. So, I mean, speaking from your own experience, let's start with you, Randy. I'm sure you've got some friends that might not be fully up to snuff on what's going on or going on any kind of journey of trying to figure out who they are, why they're here, where they're going, etc. And what's your experience been?
I don't anymore, and here's why. Because I've reached the age where I don't require the type of social interaction anymore that I did when I was in my 20s, my 30s, and probably, a little bit past that, where I went out with guys and tossed down the beers and, watched the sports programs. But it's been a game of attrition for about 10 years for me, which is about the same clock that's been running on my consciousness development. And what happens is that people just drop off the map because they discover that the old you isn't there anymore, and the new you is both much more serious and yet at the same time actually a hell of a lot more fun, but they got to raise their own game a little bit. So for me, I don't have that as a present day experience, but I remember it more from the past. And I humored that for a long time. I would go to take a weekend, go with the guys, go to Philadelphia, see the 76ers, drink a lot, do the male crude humor, and I felt empty. And I didn't know why I felt empty. Well, part of it was because in that relationship, that whole equation, there was no interaction of something that was a little bit higher. So over time, I guess I've kind of sloughed off a lot of what I would call the dead weight in my life.
Yeah, that's essentially what happens is you basically you grow up and then you realize that the people that you grew up with didn't actually grow up. And you're like, don't need them anymore. You, over there, what's your name? Oh, my name's such and blah, blah, blah. Have you already grown up? You already know what you're talking about? You're actually doing something with your life that isn't meaningless, vacuous, and basically conforming to the New World Order styles of being a douchebag? No, I'm not. Well, would you like to be friends? Yeah, sure, why not? And that's essentially what happens in a nutshell, because just the other night I had a very long, deep conversation with one of my good long-time friends, Jono, and we stayed up all night talking, and he was revealing a lot of things about his past and a lot of things that he's not particularly proud of. And we're both looking at each other because we're basically the only friends each other has had for a very long time that are actually going somewhere in our lives, and that's probably the reason why we're still friends, is because we acknowledge who we were in the past, but we acknowledge that we're not the same people anymore, and that going nowhere in life is not frickin' worth the effort, and certainly not worth the effort of going nowhere in a life shared with somebody else who's also going where? Nowhere. That's right. Because they're not developing, they're not questioning themselves, they're not trying to make more money, have a healthier family, have a healthier life. They're not trying to expand their minds at all whatsoever. You know, like Jono's listening to these self-help audio tapes and stuff like that because he's like driving around, and it's like, you know what you do when you kind of don't feel inspired anymore? You do a bit of learning. Apparently, when you're actually learning things that you don't already know, you start to expand your mind a little bit, and then you start to value each day just that little bit more, because at the end of this day, that you've done absolutely nothing, what have you gained? Oh, we've gained a little bit of money so that you can survive for another week working at your slave job. Well, that's not frickin' useful at all. If you learn something, on the other hand, learn something valuable about yourself or about your life or about the way the world truly works, that is what being a man is all about.
That's it. You hit the nail on the head. And I think that tell me what you think about this. This situation that we're in, and the way that the advertising, the TV, the media, which is pretty much the main influence in people's lives these days, it's kind of turned into a sort of a new cult or a new type of religion when you look at it really objectively. And what it is it seems to be less thought, less deep inner thinking whatsoever, and the whole, just do as many shots and beer funnels as you possibly can, watch a bunch of garbage, focus on sports, live vicariously through a bunch of these role models that we're going to set up as superheroes for you, because you, of course, can never be George St. Pierre or Michael Jordan or any of these people. So you're just going to live the rest of your life fawning at the feet of these people and just giving away your own sovereignty and your own potential, basically. And I think that is by design, because if you've got a population of the males, which of course the elites have always feared because they're the ones that start the resistances in terms of the physical assaults on their castles, etc. They need to keep men in this type of box where they're disempowered, where they're not being that role of the protector anymore. They're not filling any kind of role really, other than just as they're portrayed in the media, useless slobs, right? We're
dependent, and that's part of the socialist agenda. If you have a whole bunch of men who are completely dependent on the state, never even know anything about self-reliance, how in the frack are they ever going to resist the state?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've been talking with a couple of mates just the other day, actually, and they were going on about the rugby. And apparently this rugby team in Auckland has run the log of wood, I think they call it, the Ranfurly Shield, for the first time in 65 years. Okay, and going off the wall about it. And I say, okay, I'm not paying any attention to this. And they're like, why not? And I say, because it doesn't actually really affect me. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I say, well, does it really affect you? Do you actually share in their accomplishment of winning this shield? And they go, yes, I do. And I go, in what way? And they're like, well, you know what, actually, I guess I haven't. I say, well, that's the reason why they throw all these sports in front of you, mate, is to distract you, make you think that you're achieving something vicariously through a bunch of sports people who have never even met you, don't give a frack about you, and are covered in advertisements like a gosh dang NASCAR driver. So all they're doing is distracting you, taking out all your male energy, taking away your own personal sense of accomplishment, and at the same time, they're creating a spectacle for which to distract society in the main away from very important issues, much like they did in Rome around the crumbling of the Roman Empire. They gave them bread, they gave them circuses.
Gladiator sports.
Put the gladiators in the middle there. Yep. And just say, hey, look, I know the empire's crumbling, and I know that you're supposed to be doing something to help your country, but please, instead, watch these numbskulls bang their heads together and feel like you're achieving something as a result.
What would be, the difference between when we talk about male-female and also masculine-feminine? We're talking more about sort of an energetic or psychological type of thing. And so I want to kind of narrow down this topic and get into as many different aspects as we can. So without further ado, I want to welcome my guests. So Randy, I'm going to go ahead and welcome you first. Welcome to Truth Warrior, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, David. It's great to be here tonight.
Awesome. And I got your website right, correct?
Offplanetradio.com. You got it.
Excellent. And when do you do your show? Is it just once a week or a couple times a week?
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah.
Randy, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, there we go. Hey, there's Vinny. Let's bring Vinny
There
on.
you go.
Vinny, welcome to the show, brother. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, bro. It's good to continue the Man Talk project to let people know that men aren't just, stars and pornos and also really terrible family examples, that kind of thing. Isn't that what men have been reduced to? It's like, oh, you got a big wang, we'll give you a nice job as a porno boy. Other than that, or we're freaking home.
Right now it's been pretty limited to doing Wednesday nights, 9 to 11 p.m., and we're streaming that on the websites. There's two websites, offplanetradio.net's the other site, which is the theoretical the theoretical network side of it. And right now, but I do sporadic
Randy, just
podcasts.
Breaking up a little bit there. Maybe just repeat the last sentence you had there.
Oh, sorry about that. Last part of it.
Randy, you there?
Hello.
Okay, looks like a little bit of connection.
I can hear Randy. Can you hear me, David?
We're going to be doing part 2 of what we've coined the Man Talk project. We've done a show before. I was actually on Vinny Eastwood show a couple of weeks back, and so we have Vinny Eastwood joining us tonight, a man who needs no introduction on American Freedom Radio. You can of course check out his website, which is thevinnieeastwoodshow.com, where he delivers a great dose of comedy and conspiracy 5 days a week, I believe, and he'll confirm that for us. And of course, we also have Randy Maugans here with us, and he has his own radio show on offplanetradio.com. And so we're going to be continuing our discussion that we had started on Vinny's show a couple weeks back. And so I'm very excited. We're going to bring up a lot of different interesting topics. I really want to focus on an area that we started talking about on that show, which was just basically what is the role of men in our modern day and age and in our society? What has happened to men these days in this system in which we live and in this time in which we live? And